there's no job in the world that has the pressures and the ruthlessness of being a professional footballer or a professional manager.
Yeah.
And so that's why you probably felt, okay, I'm in a decent spot.
Yeah.
And I think the more people that are aware of that, the better they will feel when they come out of the game.
Yeah.
You know? Because there's nothing like it. It's the most ruthless industry in the world.
It really is. Willing all the way to train on the car park, and I think it was Finley had to wear Dean Edwards Dr. Martens boots.
We had to put our headlights on there so we could see.
Sorry.
Oh, God. Our training ground got broken into. A lot of homeless people
Oh, really?
in California. We turn up one day and the Kitman, the boy I told you about, Argentinian guy, now we're Messi, so he doesn't have this problem. Alejandro Caparelli.
Kitman are the best. Sorry, Hortons. So important in football.
He's incredible. Anyway, he says, Mark, the kit's gone. What do you mean the kit's gone? He says, someone's broke in and they've stole the kit. So, well, what are we going to do? We've got a game in a couple of days. Anyway, he says, I'm going to go get a coffee. He drives over to Starbucks. He calls me again. Cappy, what's the matter? The homeless people have got our kids, son.
So there just wasn't big plans.
So Cappy has to goes down under the bridge and gets all our kit back. He comes back with a big bag. With a big bag.
Oh, his scars.
I've got the kit. So I don't know how he did it, but he got it back.
Ask no questions, I think, in that situation.
Exactly.
Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me.
Oh, there goes one of my WWF figures. Do you remember these?
Yeah, I remember them, mate. Fatheads are everywhere.
This is mad, this is sitting down with you, mate.
God. It's wild, huh?
How times have changed, man.
Brilliant. Oh, God.
Yeah, and some good times out with me.
Some great times, mate. Great times.
Atlantis. Oceania.
Oh, God.
So, Mark Briggs, thank you very much for joining me. Good to see you back in the UK.
That's it, mate. Very good to be here.
Yeah. It's been probably just shy of 20 years since the last time I seen you.
I know, yeah. God. Time flies, huh?
You've been busy.
Few things have happened.
What brings you back to the UK?
Just visiting family, speaking to clubs in England and seeing, getting in front of people, meeting people, and
Good.
seeing if there's any opportunities back home.
Mate, you've been flying in the US. It's been great to see.
No, I appreciate it. It's gone well for me. Yeah, I think I'm a better coach than I was a player.
You reckon?
No, I just I guess as a player, I would like to think up here I was a step ahead.
Yeah.
But he couldn't necessarily get there.
Yeah, I've felt that as I've got older as well. But our paths probably first crossed at a little team called Willinghall back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah.
Still going. But I've always asked throughout my career who's one of the best teams, one of the best sides.
Right.
And I always go back to that Willinghall side,
It was, yeah.
We had some magic, and it was very unorthodox with certain things. But what a time that was.
Yeah, great period. Just a great group of lads who had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We could play, but we could mix it up. But more importantly, and I think as I look through my career now, we enjoyed what we did.
Yeah.
We enjoyed being around one another.
And I think that's key, isn't it? That's massively important. For some reason, we have this inbuilt camaraderie already. I was at Walsall with a number of the lads.
Yeah.
You, right place, right time, close to home.
Yeah.
It was just magical, man.
Yeah,
That's
great.
Magic. On the pitch and off the pitch.
Yeah, brilliant. We was always together, weren't we? Night out together, playing the games, obviously training, all the rest of it, but we was always together.
So I, from that point, got released from Walsall, Telford. I went on to play in League One, League Two. I had a just shy of 10-year career
Yeah.
in the pro game. But I always say, lining up with Briggsy, Barnes Alma, Dino, my brother.
Right,
There
right.
was some quality lads in that Willenhall team who I think probably deserved to go on and do better than we actually did. But right time, right place sometimes, isn't it?
That's a sport, isn't it? You need a little bit of luck and being in the right place at the right
Yeah.
time. And I'm glad you got it. I followed you and was proud of you, man.
Yeah, people always say I've had a good career, and I always say it was brutal. It was hard work. It was a slog. And something I always say is there's not many players who are now will retire and say, and like they're proud of it, they're happy to retire.
Right, right.
And people do say, oh, you're a long time retired. But it's such a brutal take on your body. It's just like the last few years, I can walk properly.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Exactly.
It's like the football, and like you don't even realise.
No, you're just in it, aren't you? You're just in it like daily, playing games when you have niggles, playing games and your hamstrings are hurting, your groins, your back, everything. And then you don't realise until later in life. God.
What's your opinion on the change of mentality where now if you get a niggle, they pull you off straight away. If you get a bang on the head, you're not able to play?
I think there's a fine balance in there.
Yeah.
I think there's a fine balance. You have to, as a head coach, as a manager, you have to work closely with the sports science department, the physical department. But I think sometimes the decision's taken away from the player. Do you know what I mean? As a player in our day and age, you'd do anything to be on the field. You'd play with niggles, bad ankles, whatever it is, you'd be on the field. Whereas now, it seems like there's a tendency to, I'm struggling a little bit here. But for me, that goes back to, there's so much pressure now.
Yeah.
There's so many eyes on it now. There's so many finances involved that a lot of these players don't play through those injuries because it's fear-based.
That's interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
I think there's a little more freedom back in the day. There's a little more...
Well, I thought the
Okay.
mentality from a physio was to prepare you for the next game, and now it feels like the physio's job is to look after the player. That's a massive turning point, which I've noticed over the last few years.
Huge. I think the game's changing. There's more data.
Yeah.
There's more staff members. There's mental performance coaches. There's physical performance coaches. There's all these different data points now. Different people that all have an opinion that you have to try and manage. But at the end of the day, you want to get the player in the best possible physical shape and best possible mental state to enable him to perform. And sometimes that's going to mean, yes, you're never 100% when you play. Never.
Yeah, no, I never was.
You know, and I think before, it's a case of you do anything to play.
Yeah.
And you need to try and instill that mentality at whatever club you're at.
I couldn't survive, man. It was a different game back then. I mean, I couldn't survive now. Like, it was sword and shield type stuff for me. It was warrior type stuff. And now you can't even go shoulder to shoulder with somebody sometimes. And just the mentality's changed. But how do you, as Coach Briggs, lean on those extra resources? So you've got all this management staff providing your analytics. How much do you take it with a pinch of salt, but then understand the psychology of a player? Or, okay, his metrics aren't there, but I know he's not doing too well at home. How do you find a balance between playing?
I think you've got to, first and foremost, you've got to have a staff who are all on the same page. There's a lot of data that you can dig into now. There's a lot of foxholes you can go down. So you've got to be aligned in your club with your staff as your team. You've got to make sure you're all on the same page. You all understand, first and foremost, your style of play.
Yeah.
What you want to do at a weekend, and then you've got to tailor it back. So if you're a team that wants to press aggressively, win individual duels, you've got to make sure that by the time you get to the weekend, you're fresh enough to be able to implement that game model. Do you know what I mean? So it's important that you utilise the sports science, the physical department, the physio, the sports science, but you've got to make sure you're on the same page. You're covering the right amount of distance. They're doing the right sprint distances each and every day. There's a plan, but all in all, that plan has to make sure you're prepared and you're ready to go at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, or in America 7 p.m. on a Saturday.
Really?
You know, I think it all has to be connected and all has to be aligned, and ultimately everyone has to feel value.
Yeah, I was getting flashbacks then of some of your team talks on that Willing All pitch. Like, you haven't changed, have you? You're still a motivator. But let's jump back, man, because I remember your time at West Brom, and you had an experience, didn't you, where you went into the game at a young age,
Yeah.
and then you ended up finding yourself in non-league for whatever reason. But if we go back further, as a kid, you was, you know, one of the highest prospects at West Brom, if that's fair to say, and you went on to do great things, didn't you? I think you was player of the season the time you went to Wembley and stuff.
Yeah, it was. I loved my time at West Brom.
Yeah.
I was fortunate with the coaches I had. Richard O'Kelly, John Truick, John Gorman at the time, Brian Little. You know, the list goes on of like people who had an impact on me as a young player coming through. And it was, you know, got to the professional stage and signed a contract, and then a new coach came in and just I didn't fit the bill, you know, which is just the way the sport is. And I kind of went out to Denmark at the time for 2 years, and
I remember, How did that come about? Why Denmark?
West Brom. A director of the club bought Clive Stapleton.
Yeah.
Bought a team in Denmark. And he took me and Matty Turner out there for 2 years, and we lived just outside Copenhagen for 2 years as a young 21-year-old. Looking back now, I probably shouldn't have gone that route. Should have stayed in England and, you know, may have picked up something. But yeah, I loved my time West Brom, playing in the Youth Cup at such a young age, and scoring against Man City at Main Road, playing against Nottingham Forest, like playing at Wembley for West Brom. Experiences that, you know, you never forget, do you? They stay with you.
Yeah, but it's interesting you made the point about whether you made the right or wrong decision. I personally think it was the right decision, because look at your career path now. It's fantastic. But for me, the be-all and end-all was playing in the Football League.
Right.
Like, that was my mission statement.
Yeah.
And I had opportunities to move abroad, pivot left or right.
Right.
But I converted the garage into a gym. I was working at the Co-op as a graphic designer. And then the magic and the romance of the FA Cup, that is what put me back on the map.
Yeah.
And as a young kid, I mean, I was released. So people say, oh, Pez, what advice have you got for me? And I say, well, I got released from every single club at every level.
Right.
But I still kept on going. And I could probably play now if I got myself in shape.
I think that's it, isn't it? Like, you keep going.
Yeah.
You find, if this is what you want to do, you find ways to be in it. You find ways to get in front of people. You find ways to show what you can do. But if this is your focus, you have to do whatever you can to be in it.
Yeah. Like you said, at one club you can be a hero, and at another club you could be a villain.
Right.
So you got to find like a happy medium, haven't you?
Oh, mate, yes you do. Yes you do. So where are you a hero? Where are you a villain?
think I was a pantomime villain at most clubs, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest. I enjoyed my time at Mansfield, but again, I was only there a season. I scored over 30 goals in a season at Tamworth in the National League. And obviously the romance what happened at Chasetown.
Right.
But my career has been tarnished with, I'd say, a lack of good managers, a lack of people managers, and just an unbelievable level of corruptness throughout the game.
Yeah.
And as me, who prides myself on a strong moral compass, it was always difficult for me to like face some of these things I'd see and hear.
Yeah.
And then that's why people would say, "Oh, I'm flaky or I jump shit much." But no, I just didn't want to deal with like what I was seeing.
Right.
So I'd move ship. So seeing yourself and how you've progressed in the game and knowing your values and principles, like everybody who we know, we always speak about. He said, "Look what he's doing now. It's unbelievable. He's flying out there." So
it's as a player, I needed love.
Yeah,
I needed a coach to understand me,
and that's why you're a good manager, I think.
And so I pride myself on, the understanding. In order for a player to step across that white line and be able to give what you need him to give, that player's a human being.
Yeah.
That player might have just split up with his girlfriend. His mum or dad's sick. His kid's sick. There's all sorts of things that go on in a player's life, in a human's life. And if you don't connect with that person, you don't show empathy with that person, how can you expect that person to run around a football field for you? I think it's about relationships. It's about caring for someone, understanding someone, and ultimately giving someone time, and I think that's, for me, I never got that from a coach.
Yeah.
Well, no, not all coaches, and I got that at a younger age when I was at West Brom, and that's what got the best out of me. And as I got into the pro game, I'd never got that.
Yeah.
And it hurt me. And so I try and pride myself now on, it's a player's sport, and the players have to feel good,
I think that's why everyone loves football so much, because it's subjective and it's objective. Like, everybody can have opinion, and everybody can have an opinion, and it's like, it's the only sport where you can lose a game, but people can come away and say, well, I'm happy with how the lads did.
Right.
There's no other sport which is like that. And sometimes when it goes to the metrics, for me, I honestly do say it's about winning or losing, and you do anything you can to win a game of football.
Exactly. That's ultimately, in a nutshell, it is about winning and losing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But as a manager, it's your job to manage the expectation of the fans, the board, the players.
Yeah.
And then how do you keep that morale going when it's not a good day at the office?
And what you just said there about winning and losing, for me, there's two types of winning. There's winning, and you get the odd result. You can go on a run, but it's not really convincing. It's not complete. And I call it winning whole.
Okay.
By that, I mean what I just spoke about in regards caring for people and giving people time, having every staff member having value, feeling value. When you win, everyone wins.
Yeah.
And I think that's what allows you to build a culture. That's what allows you to want to go to work every day, to enjoy what you do. And so my goal is to try and always win whole.
Yeah. I love you. I feel like I want to get my boots back on. Sign me up. I'll get on the relay track tomorrow.
I'd have you straight away. So,
what are you, coach, boss, gaffer? What did they turn you?
Honestly, English lads call me gaffer. That's just a natural. Some players call me Mark.
Really?
I don't need to be the boss, gaffer. My name's Mark.
Yeah.
So it's just whatever. A lot of times it's coach in America.
Yeah. I know. It's working, isn't it, out there?
Yeah, the game's growing. Levels gets better and better, every year. So it's been a good place for me to learn the game as a coach.
I can imagine. Have you witnessed the Messi Effect firsthand or not?
Oh yeah. My Inter Miami actually stole my Kitman. He's an Argentinian guy, so he, as soon as that job comes, and he can go and be with Messi every day. So I get first-hand stories from him and that. But yeah, the impact he's had just on everything over there. You see people. I landed in England actually and saw somebody walking around into Miami top. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's been fantastic.
Well, that's a massive part of it now, isn't it? It's more like a corporate business, a football club now, than anything else. It is a money maker more than anything, and it is global.
Exactly. And I think the more and more, it's only going to go that way.
Yeah.
You're a brand, you're marketing your team, your club, you're marketing yourself. That's the way the world is right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and with the internet and how accessible everything is on social media now and TikTok and everything, you got to be quick with your content. People want to digest information quickly.
Exactly.
So I suppose as a manager of a football club, you've got to manage that as well. And your players, what are they doing? What are they not doing?
For sure, you've got to. It's multifaceted. You've got to be able to You got to be able to speak well on social media. You got to say the right things in the press. You've got to, you've got to have your own social media. You got to manage ownership. You got to work closely with general managers, sporting directors. So there's so many arms now that you have to try and control as a manager, a head coach, or whatever you want to call it.
So can we peel back the curtain then? Do you have an agent, or do you represent yourself? How does it work?
Yeah, so working with Wasserman right now here in the UK, and they essentially try and put you in front of people, try and put you in for roles, and then your own relationships as well. Still got a lot of relationships that are in the game from my past, relationships I've created in America, so just trying to utilize every avenue. But yeah, ultimately agents get you in the door, and then your track record. Obviously, if you've done well, that when people look at your CV, oh yeah, I remember him. Like, I wouldn't mind a chat with him. That type of thing,
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny game, isn't it? Like, fortunate being in the Midlands. So when I was coming through at Walsall, I was sharing a dressing room with Roberto Martinez.
Yeah.
And he speaks like you do, now then, and
Right.
same as you were speaking the same then, but just the snippets of advice and information. I mean, Paul Merson was in the dressing room as well. It's a ridiculous place to be, but then seeing how Roberto especially gone on to excel in the game itself, and now Mercy's a pundit. Would you be interested in jumping on some punditry?
Maybe one day. Not now. I love working with players. I love being on the grass. I love the feel, when you're on the grass. I love the pressures. Right now this is where I want to be. I just got that hunger, that desire to done okay in America, and now I want to try and I want to come home and prove that I can do it here in England.
Oh, rightly so as well. I mean, what's your thoughts now? I mean, to the latter end of my career, sitting in a dressing room, people just sit on the phones and not chat. Where back in the day it was like the Wild West. People would turn up on the horses and it was
Exactly.
gunslinging. It's a bit different story.
It is. It's a different world now, and sometimes I've had to get used. I don't like a quiet dressing room. Yeah. And I've had to get used to, sometimes you walk in the dressing room and like you say, they don't even talk to the person next to them because they're just on their phones. So I allow them to be on it for the first part when they get in the dressing room, but like, if you're going to go to battle with someone, you got to talk to them, You can't just be on your phone and then on the field, there's no communication. So you got to, I like the players to be talking, I like the players to be having a bit of banter, making fun of one another, like, telling you, taking the piss out of one another, like clowns everywhere. Just, you have to communicate.
Used to play with a lad called Craig Stanley, who had a very good league career.
Yeah.
And he always said, he wasn't good with his feet, but he would talk a game and everybody knew where he was on the pitch. Everybody knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so important.
It's probably the most important thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
The communication with one another, to your teammates, just simple things, just help the game so much.
And do you prefer technical over work ethic and rate, or work rate over technical?
Yeah, to me, if you don't work hard, if you don't have a work rate, your technical's a waste of time. And if you play for me, you have to be willing to run.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to play a certain way, and I want people to enjoy the way we play.
It's not going to work for a scaffer, by the way. Then I can't run anymore.
I can't run anymore. Hey, but we'll get it up for you, and it'll stick.
Exactly.
So
know your weapons. That's important.
Exactly.
I've been in teams where they say, "Pez, you can't run anymore," and I'm saying you've got 10 other players. You want somebody who's a whippet. You want somebody with a long throw. You want somebody who can wrestle everyone. But there's this lack of appreciation, I suppose. And I think it's come back, the target man.
Right.
But I think he did go in the UK, definitely, over the last few years.
I completely agree with you. I think it's about it's about being aligned, and it's about having a plan.
Yeah.
If like if I want to high press and I've got a number 9 that can't run, you can't high press. Do you know what I mean? So if you have a game model, you've got to have the player profiles that fit that game model. And then you hope your director of football, your support staff can go out and get you those players so you can implement it.
Yeah.
But obviously in England, it's a ruthless game and you don't really get that time sometimes to implement that.
It's probably one of the worst jobs in the world, isn't it? Because if you're not a high performer within the initial first month, 2 months, you could be out the door.
Exactly. It's a ruthless business.
So why? Why, Mark? Why would you want to be, dealing with that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You've done it, wasn't you?
I guess I'm addicted to it.
Okay, yeah.
I've felt certain successes and winning's a drug.
Yeah.
And when you feel it, when you understand what it takes to win, like it becomes an addiction to get back there. You want to feel those emotions again.
Scoring that winning goal is better than sex.
Yeah.
Oh, whether that's an indication on some of the women I've had, or some of the goals I've scored, it could be either way.
Let's see, it could go either way, that one. But but no, you're right. It's an unbelievable feeling. Then once you feel it, you want it again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I always struck. So I'm 38 now. So I haven't officially retired. I haven't put that to it, and I've been roped back into charity games and step 6 or the bottom step or the upside down step.
Right.
Well, that's what I always struggle with as well.
I think it's one of the hardest things, isn't it? Once you have felt it, and I think that's where, as a coach, it enables me to feel it from a different angle. It's not the same. It's not the same as playing. Never gonna be. But I'm still able to, feel those emotions and
I miss that
have that feeling.
Physical exhaustion, after a game.
Yeah.
And it's like that negative energy, or everything's left your body. Nothing else matters for that 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what do I do to replace that?
Yeah. It's a question I'm sure many people have, and it's one of the hardest questions. And you see people go into depression, you see people gamble, you see people because they're chasing that emotion, they're chasing that feeling. And it's one of the hardest things to control. And I think as an industry, football can do a better job.
Yeah.
I see like they help the young players, they're trying to give more help to young players, more tools for
grassroots.
Yeah, but what about, which is great, that's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but what about the player that comes out the game at 36, 37, 35, whatever that is, who've been in the game for 20 years, who don't necessarily have an education? What about them?
Yeah.
It's just the same, so I think the industry has to do a better job in preparing people for the next phase, and I know the FA are doing an awful lot, which is great. I think they have to continue to do that because there's a lot of good people that have been footballers and they come out of it and, well, what's next?
And sometimes there is a lack of education aspect. But I mean, I work for a good company now, and they talk about transferable skills.
Yeah.
And they always say, I'd have an ex-pro footballer or semi-pro footballer every day of the week within my company, because I know that they come with these transferable skills which they've picked up over the years, where they can pivot, where they understand high-pressure situations.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest worry coming out the pro game when I joined the corporate world.
Yeah.
Going to an office, I thought, I'm going to be behind everybody else.
Right.
I'm not going to be up to their standard. And I got into it and I thought, wow, like I'm operating at such a quicker frequency, higher frequency than some of these folk. And I just think it put me in good stead to transition.
100%. There's no job in the world that has the pressures and the ruthlessness of being a professional footballer or a professional manager.
Yeah.
And so that's why you probably felt, okay, I'm in a decent spot.
Yeah.
And I think the more people that are aware of that, the better they will feel when they come out of the game.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like it. It's the most ruthless industry in the world.
It really is. at every stage, every age. And I'm a bit, like I say, I'm an advocate of the PFA. I think they do a fantastic job. They've helped reconstruct my face a number of times for the elbows and everything. But again, mental health, as you say, is it's a sticky point. It's an interesting point, especially with an environment with such a male dominance in it. So yeah, I think they're working on it, and I think they are improving it.
For sure.
But it needs more of a, like you say, as a manager, like one-to-one, not mentoring, but like guidance.
Yeah.
Kind of like an apprenticeship scheme coming out of the game,
Right.
supporting players.
Exactly. I think it's critical. It's so important to the well-being. A lot of these people have given so much to the game,
Yeah,
you know, that they deserve to get something back.
yeah,
And even if that is just a little bit of mentoring, even if that is a little bit of education, whatever it may be, they've deserved that.
that's quality. That is. When did you retire or stop playing?
God, I retired when I was 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because you was in the right place at the right time to.
Kind of got pushed on me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was in Wilmington, North Carolina. Manager was an older English guy. And I was older player. And he just, he was like, run the sessions, Briggs.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I didn't want to do it, to be honest. And even now, I still feel like I didn't retire how I wanted to retire, like my choice. But it's been beneficial for me in regards, I got on the coaching ladder early. I got into the professional game, coaching right there, right then. Do you know what I mean? So I've been fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, that's class. Todd, funny you say that. Todd wanted his like retirement moment, and he was at a club, Dudley Town, down the road. They play at Willie North's ground now, Sporting Kelso as it's called.
Oh God!
And he wanted the press did some nice coverage on it, and our mum was there, and our dad and the family was there, and he had like a guard of honour coming out, and
That's quality.
that was what he wanted. Whereas me, I want to go out in like a blaze of glory, like on a motorbike through a hoop on fire, sword and shield. I want to die on the battlefield. That's kind of how I want to go out. But you don't get that romantic ending.
No,
It fizzles out towards the end. I
exactly.
still feel like, I could score that winning goal still, or
Yeah.
I could, change the game, but it doesn't happen as you get older.
I think that's it. 90% of the people, players, it kind of fizzles out, and then there's the small percentage that get that, that dream ending kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think it's 1% out of all players make it as a professional as well.
Which tells you everything.
It's ruthless. There's nothing like it.
It's such a ruthless world. It's such a ruthless industry.
So what took you to America?
Bouncing around the lower leagues of English football, working on a building site, just wasn't for me. So I started to look into it a little bit more, and then got a phone call to come out. And initially I just went out there for a few months, see what it was like, see if I enjoyed it. Played in this summer league, did all right, and then got an offer to play in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then I went there. That was 2009. I went initially. Played my first season there. Did really well. It's paradise, mate. I went from Wolverhampton to where, do you remember the show Dawson's Creek
Oh, I loved it, yeah.
and One Tree Hill?
I remember them, yeah.
So they were, that was where it was filmed,
No way.
like on the ocean, on the water, like small beach town. But I was like, oh my God, and fell in love with it, fell in love with the community, the people.
Yeah.
And I ended up, I came back for 2 years and played in Malta, and then I went back. Yeah, and then I went back, and I've been not in Wilmington, but I've been in America ever since 2012.
My biggest issue with the game in the UK was the travelling.
Right.
So every time I'm explaining, I tell them a story about how I'll play Gateshead on a Tuesday night and then Torquay on the Saturday, and then you're sitting across from me.
I was going to say.
Tell me about some of the things you've had to do.
The traveling, mate, is incredible. You know, like you can, for us in Sacramento, everywhere's a flight.
Wow.
You know, so even your close games, you're flying to. We play in Phoenix, you're on a 90-minute flight. You play in El Paso, you're going 90 minutes to Phoenix, then another 2 hours to El Paso on a different flight. So you're in airports a lot, you're traveling all the time, and that's where it becomes critical that I do have a good relationship with the physical side of the things, and making sure that players are, you know, we're monitoring them closely and giving them a rest here and there.
Yeah.
You know, do all sorts to make
Sounds
sure
like a
that
well-oiled machine.
it has to be, otherwise it doesn't work.
I've been on a coach with Port Vale to Southend and we forgot the kit. we had to wear their third kit, I think, in the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God,
That's in the Football League.
those stories are brilliant there as well, aren't they? It's incredible.
Would you have
Incredible.
anything like that from over there, or was it just literally?
Those things happen all the time. I have. So our training ground got broken into. A lot of homeless people in
Oh, really?
in California, because the weather's beautiful, and you know there's just a lot of homeless.
Getting worse out there as well.
Yeah, we turn up one day and the Kitman, the boy I told you about, Argentinian guy, he's
His name?
now with Messi, so he doesn't have this problem. Alejandro Caparelli.
Keep one of the best. So important in football.
He's incredible. Anyway, he says, Mark, the kit's gone. What do you mean the kit's gone? He says, someone's broke in and they've stole the kit. So, well, what are we going to do? We've got a game in a couple of days. Anyway, he says, I'm going to go get a coffee. He drives over to Starbucks. He calls me again. Cappy, what's the matter? The homeless people got our kids, son. So
Sure, there just wasn't big fans.
So Cappy has to goes down under the bridge and gets all our kit back. He comes back with a big bag. With a big bag.
Nice scars.
I've got the kit. So I don't know how he did it, but he got it back.
Ask no questions, I think, in that situation.
Exactly.
That's unbelievable, that is.
So there's stories everywhere, and they're like all the time. It's never as smooth as people think.
No. But I know some of them you keep to yourself, don't you?
Oh, you have to.
It's best.
You have to.
So how many years was you there then?
So in Wilmington, in North Carolina, I got the bug. So the coach pushed me into it. I got the bug at that point.
He progressed, didn't he?
So he just, he's an older guy.
Yeah.
He had a good life. You know, he met, his wife was a former dancer from the Miami Dolphins. He was a former player. They had a lot of money.
Sounds terrible.
He was out on the golf course a lot, let's put it that way. But after that season, I decided that coaching was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I went to the local youth club, and instead of coming home, I said, hey, like, can I coach teams? So I would coach. The first ever team I coached was a U12 girls team. I still have that picture of the team in my office. And then I coached like U12 girls, like older girls, older boys, younger boys, and that was where I was out on the field every night from 4:30 to 10:30, just coaching teams and putting in the work, because I knew that there was so much to learn. And that was what I did. And then they gave me a full-time role with a youth club, so I stepped away from the professional game a little bit. They made me the academy director, then technical director. Then the first team had a really bad season, so they offered me the job. They finished bottom, and then we made the playoffs, but we made the quarterfinals of the Open Cup, which is like the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And that was how I got my move to Real Salt Lake, because we played Real Salt Lake in the quarterfinals. We lost on penalties. After the game, the sporting director pulled me in the office on the way back, said, "Hey, we love how your team plays, blah blah blah." And so I ended up at Salt Lake, coaching their second team.
What's the distance between the two?
Oh God. Well, when I moved, it was a 34-hour drive. Me in a U-Haul going across all sorts of terrain.
Was you just on your own at this point?
Yeah, so it's I travelled through all sorts of terrain. But yeah, it was actually just before I got to Salt Lake. So I'd travelled like 32 hours, and I'm like, I'll have a rest. I've only got to go down the mountains, and I'm in Salt Lake. It was like an hour's drive, so I thought I'll stop off at a hotel, stay the night. Stop off, get some dinner, go to bed. Wake up in the morning, there's 6 foot of snow and the mountain's closed. Can't get off the mountain. So I was a little bit late getting into Salt Lake.
Wow.
But no, it was whole different world, whole different level.
Yeah.
MLS facilities, and I coached the second team, so it was kind of, I had younger players coming through, first team players coming down, and then I had the players that were on that roster, on that squad that I had to manage. And
so what league would the second team play in?
the USL Championship.
Right, okay, so it's still
standard. So they played like second division, and yeah, it was we were successful, and we won the league, and I got coach of the year, and we broke a few records. So it was a good time.
'Cause it's nothing like reserve football, is it? You know, you say second team. I suppose people in the UK would
presume reserve. Yeah,
but it's not. It's like an entity all in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's another professional league. It's basically like Manchester United, first team playing the Premier League, and the reserve team playing the Championship.
Yeah,
it's like that. So it's good for development, that's for sure. Players progress at a quick rate, but
would you have much involvement with the first team or the A team?
Yeah, all the time.
Swapping players. Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
Players go up and down. Which was sometimes difficult to manage. Obviously, attitudes.
Yeah.
If you're coming down, you don't want to be playing, and there's a few experiences where we as a club had to adapt and had to make. Sometimes it's not a punishment. Sometimes it's to keep your fitness, whatever that may be. So it was managing those players, also dealing with the academy director and pushing the players through that we felt had a future. So it was a good time, but a big learning experience for me.
No, I can imagine. What would you say the difference is between a technical director and a director of football?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think, like for me, being in America, they have general managers. Most teams have general managers. Do you know what I mean?
And is a general manager somebody who runs the day-to-day workings of a football club?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But they work closely with the head coach. And I think so. I'm used to dealing with that. And Real Salt Lake was kind of the first time where in Wilmington I had to do everything. I was signing the players, I was speaking to agents, I was doing the contracts, all sorts of things. Whereas going to Real Salt Lake, there's a general manager, there's a whole team that bring players to you as the coach.
Yeah.
And you have an opinion, but you essentially coach the team.
Yeah.
You get the best out of these players.
What do you prefer doing? Just coaching a team or?
Yeah, I'm good at coaching. Like, I enjoy coaching. I enjoy managing the team. Yes, I want to have an opinion because it's important that the players fit what we're trying to do. But I don't have to deal with agents. I don't have to have all conversations that I really have no interest in. But I do love being on the grass and around the team. So it took a little bit for me to understand that, because you feel like you're losing power when not really. You're gaining.
You're delegating.
You're allowing people to to do what they do best, and that's their strength. And my strength's been on the field, being with players.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, going back in the day, Kevin Keegan's Football Manager on the SNES.
Mhm.
I used to love building the grounds. I used to love getting the sweepers, going cleaning the stadium.
That's it.
But yeah, I mean, I just read that Football Manager 25 has been pushed back. They're not really.
Oh, really?
So that was going to be my that's my management career, put on the back burner for the rest of the year.
It's coming now. It's coming. It's coming.
Talk to me about the draft. How does the draft process work?
So it's it's not now because of the so in America they put a real emphasis on academies
Yeah.
and building the structures underneath first teams.
Yeah.
So that's kind of pushed the draft down a little bit.
Okay.
So in football now, soccer, it's not really as relevant because all the top players are already in academies.
Really?
Yeah. So the draft's become a little like the draft doesn't happen anymore
That's
on the
it.
professional side because there's such a big emphasis now on. There's still college players that come through. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's really all the better players, all the younger players clubs have in their systems like here now.
Yeah, it's finding a balance, isn't it? Like between buying a league like Manchester City, buying the best players, and then being in all the trouble they're in,
Right.
or developing young talent, which they do as well. To be fair, to them.
Yeah,
Not
for
just a
sure.
knock on. But the draft always was something which didn't intimidate me. But I think as an English lad going out there, it's just a strange concept. It doesn't like the game's different because
It's completely different,
Yeah.
and there's so many different rules. There's so many different things that you have to abide by. It's a different world. Like even now, as I sit here and I'm thinking about it, like there's so many things. There's steam coming out your ears. But in MLS, there's so many different rules. Like you can't just sign players. The league are in control of every club. So the league has to agree to different things. Then there's TAM money, there's GAM money, there's development money, there's allocation money, there's DP money. There's like all these things that you have to manage. And as a head coach, you can't do that.
wow,
That it takes a whole team to manage all those
We
things.
say it's the league,
Yeah, so it's Major League Soccer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they govern the whole thing for every football team.
Yeah. So it's just a completely different, it's a different setup to the English landscape.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what the English game's missed out on, especially through my career. I'm sick of all the managers and the agents taking dibs on little deals, little sweeteners, let's say, on the side.
There's a lot of things that the English game can learn from America, but there's also a lot of things that the American game can learn from England. You see a lot of American owners now investing in English football. So it'll be interesting if our game becomes a little Americanized.
Yeah, and I think it is, especially with Wrexham.
Yeah.
But they've put it on the map.
Yeah,
They brought the romance and the magic back to Wrexham. It's great to see. I've played there when it was dying on its arse.
Right.
And to see how they've transformed the club and the people and the atmosphere and attitude. I'd say I'm saying more welcome to them. Bring them over.
And they're everywhere in America, Wrexham. Like
Yeah.
Obviously because of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, they're everywhere. They've done an unbelievable job in publishing it, and I think now that people have seen that and the romance of that, the enjoyment, the pressures, all of it, it's given an insight to the American investors.
Magic Mike doing a little TikTok video in the dressing room. What's some Shannon Tate of
Yeah.
the Wrexham player.
It's crazy.
Right, my time again. I don't know what that means, talking about Magic Mike and saying if I had my time again. I don't know. Take it as you want.
No, it is. It's unbelievable. And then the last 5 years in Sacramento.
Yeah.
So fantastic club, fantastic people.
How did you get that move?
Just went from the second team at Real Monarchs. Sacramento's a big club, so got the opportunity and moved out there, and spent a fantastic 5 years there. And like, we developed the academy, we developed players, we had everyone knows about the cup run. We were within 30 minutes of playing Champions League football. Which is we had no right in doing what we're doing, but
what happened in the game?
So the cup run was just a magical. The whole country got behind us. We beat San Jose Earthquakes, which is a local rivalry. It'd be like Villa playing Walsall.
Yeah.
And then we went down to LA Galaxy. We beat LA Galaxy 2-1. Then in the semi-final, we faced Sporting Kansas City. And we ended up winning on penalties. One of my players did a Panenka that went all over the place, And then the captain scored the winner, and then we lost in the final to Orlando City 3-0. But there we had them for 70 minutes. We were close, it was tight, we should have scored and we didn't. But it was a point where they were going to make them film on us. Like we were travelling around the country and everyone knew you. Like Kristen Stewart and her agent came up to me and wished me good luck for one of the games.
What do you think you was doing differently through the whole period to everybody else out there? Because you captured something. You captured magic in a bottle.
We prepared for that season really diligently. We went through so much.
Yeah.
Utilising every single avenue from a recruitment standpoint.
Yeah.
We made sure that we used a group called 21st Group, and we aligned absolutely everything. We looked at leagues where it was equivalent to our league. We had players where the trajectory was on the up and not on the down. We categorised things. We went into a lot of detail. Then when we got the players in, we made it apparent that, yes, we want to do well in the league and, yes, we want to try and win a championship, but the Open Cup is really important to us. And so what ended up happening was, due to the Cup playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, whatever that may be, we ended up having two teams, essentially.
Oh, really?
One that played at the weekend in a league game, one that was preparing to play in the Open Cup. So it was managing
both.
Yeah, so it was managing. It's the same squad, but we players couldn't give what we needed them to give all the time. So we had to rotate, we had to manage. But it was great because everyone had an impact. Everyone had an impact on the cup run. Everyone had an impact we lost in the semi-finals of the playoffs, but managing both entities, both competitions was, extremely difficult.
Yeah. Is there a financial reward from the Open Cup?
There is, yeah. I can't remember what it is now, but there's a financial reward for you being the last team at your level in the competition. You get X amount of money, and then obviously to make the final, you get X amount of money, and if we'd have won it, you'd have got an X amount of money.
Split on the gates as well, like in the FA Cup.
It's really different, so it's just drew out of a hat.
Yeah.
But because the country's so vast, the away team doesn't really get many fans. So
of course, yeah.
I can't remember how it's split, but there's some reward for each team.
I don't know if you've been following the FA Cup recently in the UK, but they've changed the rules and there's no replays now, which I get it. It benefits the players. There's less games. But, like recently, Tamworth took Tottenham to extra time. That
I watched that. Yeah.
Could have been a replay, could have went back to Tottenham, could have been a hell of a lot of money for Tamworth.
Exactly.
And what put me was the second round of the FA Cup against Port Vale. And, we had, if that went to extra time in the first replay, first game, I don't think I would have been where I got to.
Right.
I just think they've took that romance element out of it a little bit.
Yeah, with
Understanding, let's understand. And look, times change, and I understand that, and times have got to change. But it's just a shame that they've took out that kind of beauty from the game. I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the FA Cup has always been like, look, I remember, and this is why I had such a focus on the Open Cup because of the FA Cup. I got it and I loved it.
Got the players to buy into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
because like growing up, man, the FA Cup final's a big day. You wake up early and you're watching them at the hotel. You're watching them on the bus. Like I loved it. And was fortunate enough to experience like a magical cup run.
Yeah. Wow. And then I suppose that brings you to where you are today.
Yeah. So and now it's had a great time in Sacramento, and it is amicable both parties. And I wish them nothing but the best. And now it's it's trying to find that new adventure, that new opportunity.
Yeah. So you're not cancelling the fact that you could still end up in the US?
Could do, yeah. I think,
or anywhere else, really.
Yeah, look, I think in this game, you never know in football. It's a worldwide game, and I'm open to any opportunity. But obviously, I want to show that I can do it in England. I want to show that I can do it at home. But America has also been my home for the last 12 years. So, I've got to keep all options open and try and take the right opportunity.
So how would your family feel about moving to the UK?
My daughter's one thing that she told me when I told her that, Sacramento, because she's 5, she only knows Sacramento. Yeah. She's grew up going to the games, and that's all she knows. She said, "Daddy, the one thing that I want in your next job is I want it to be a place that snows." And I'm like, I don't know about that. So the other day in England, it snowed, and she was over the moon. So she's ticked the box now. I'm allowed to move to England again.
Yeah.
But no, my family's wife's from California, so it'll be a bit of a culture shock to her, a bit of a weather shock. But she's open, she's fully supportive, and we're all just excited to see what's next.
Yeah, I can imagine she'll get to spend more time with you because you're not catching planes everywhere.
Exactly. Away games, you're only on a bus and you're back that same night. So when you're on a away trip in America, if it's an East Coast trip, I would leave on Thursday and I wouldn't be back till Sunday. If it's just a local West Coast trip, I'll still leave Friday.
People don't realise that. They don't realise the level of commitment. Even non-league football, I even say that's a no man's kind of land. Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, and you'd have to leave work early and then hit the road. And the pro game, there's not much difference. You'd still get your Wednesday off, so it's an extra couple of days, but you could just fully, prepare right away from the game.
Right.
But I mean, you've experienced that. I can see why you're doing so well in management and why you're going to do so well, because you've experienced non-league, international football, the Football League, success, failure. You've ticked all the boxes.
A little bit of a journeyman, I guess you'd say. But I think it's given me experiences that I lean on in my coaching, because I've been at the top club where everything's there for you. I've been at the lower non-league club where you've got nothing and you doing it because you love the game, trying to make your way up. I've been at all these levels, and so that enables me to communicate with players, and I've been in that position. And as a player, I'd imagine that you can respect that.
Yeah. Do you remember the time at Willenhall where we had to train on the car park, and I think it was Finley had to wear Dean Edwards' Dr. Martens boots, and we had to turn our headlights on our car.
We had to put our headlights on there so we could see.
Oh, God.
Haven't they? Yeah, but you never forget those moments, do you?
Because
I'd
that's
still-
what you do. You do anything to play football and lace your boots up. But it
Exactly.
sounds like that hasn't left you, like you're saying.
No, I love it.
Progress.
I've had a really fortunate experience in America actually. Where I was in Sacramento, have you ever heard of Folsom Prison, where Johnny Cash did his? So every month, I go into Folsom Prison and play football with the prisoners. Me and my staff and the front office, obviously not the players, but we go in and play with them, and it's one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had.
Humbling.
Oh,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't believe. And then when you're in the yard and you're playing, it's the game we all love.
Yeah.
You forget where you are, you forget who you're playing against, and you're just playing football.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the most. I'm very fortunate to have been able to experience that. I'm a bit of a celebrity actually in Folsom Prison. God, not many people could say that.
You and Johnny Cash.
That's it.
Well,
God,
isn't it?
It really is. So I made the mistake the one day we'd played a game and I'd gone into Folsom on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and you obviously talk to the prisoners and anyway I said to them, like, why don't you all watch the games? Like, give me some feedback. Next time I went in, good Lord, I had pages and pages and pages from all the prisoners, like from watching the games, giving feedback, telling me my decisions were good, bad. What are you doing?
Isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
giving them
great
to concentrate on,
Exactly.
think about.
Exactly.
And I bet a lot of people wouldn't do that, what you've done there.
And you know, there's some bad people.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But there's also people who have made mistakes and, you know, they're trying to better themselves, and it was an unbelievable experience for me.
So I say this, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? And when you get on that path, it's hard to get your head above the water.
Yeah.
And it's like it is a muddy slope. So it's the fact that they've, you know, got somebody who goes out the way to say positive stuff for them. Because I've had it in the game where someone's come up to me and he's done one in the game and he said, I remember what you said to me
Exactly.
10 years ago. And I was like, shit, you don't even realise the impact you have.
And we're fortunate to be in a position where sometimes you can have that impact on someone. And so you have to make the most of that, and you have to appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like you are.
Yeah, look, I'm very fortunate to still be in the game. And I want to make the most of the time I have in the game,
Yeah.
you know, because I love being in the game.
How long would you want to be a manager for?
As long as I can be, as long as the game gives me the opportunity to be a manager. I love it. I enjoy it, and while I have that enjoyment and that enthusiasm and that drive to be successful, you know, you want to carry on as long as you
I think
can.
that's important, isn't it? And as a manager, I think if you can get on the loop,
Yeah.
you know, and it's the same managers in circulation, I think, you know, credit to them. But sometimes as a fan or a player, you think, oh, I'm not this.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult for me. Like, look, I'm not naive. I understand people are going to be like, oh, America. You know, there's still that negative cloud
Yeah.
over America here. Oh, it's no good. It's this, it's that. So I understand that. I've just got to take whatever opportunity I can and try and get in front of as many people as I can and show, you know, that I know what I'm talking about, and I wouldn't be a bad hire for whatever club it ends up being.
I totally agree now. Wise words as well. But if we just wrap up with some quick fire questions.
Fire away.
Career highlight. As a player.
As a player.
Player first.
Oof. God, that's a good question. Probably playing at Wembley with West Brom. Yeah.
And it's strange that he was probably one of your first experiences as well, wasn't
Yeah, so young, yeah. But yeah, scoring the penalty in the penalty shootout at Wembley, that would probably be one of the highlights.
I had some of my best promotions at Telford when I was very young, 18, And then I got my move from the FA Cup, which was like national press at 2021. And then it was downhill from there. I was just surviving from that point on.
I think that what you say there, though, is there's like, what's the best way to say this? There's so many people surviving and not like enjoying what they do.
Not thriving, yeah.
There's so much fear in the game. There's so much fear. And I think it gets forgotten, and you
know
don't
what?
end
I
up
think I was
enjoying it.
fearful. I think I was fearful, but it was like a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
And I think when I made it pro at Vale, everybody wanted me to fail. And it was like, you know, the weight of the world was on my shoulders.
Yep.
And I was doing too much. I was working too hard.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting tendonitis in my knees, and
Right.
it takes over.
And sometimes that's where you have to understand people,
Mm.
and you have to, I think too many times people avoid the truth. You know, the reality of it is you are a professional footballer. There are thousands of people that want your job.
Yeah.
You're going to go out on a field on a Saturday and play in front of 2, 3, 5, 10,000 people who all have an opinion about every decision you've made as a player and as a coach.
Yeah.
There's no other job like that. And you have to face all of these things and be truthful about them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And support one another with that. And I think that's where you can get rid of fear. But to me, too many people, I don't know, oh, Kyle Perry, he's not running for me. He's not tackling, he's not heading. And then it's like, oh, push him out the team, push him away.
Yeah.
When the reality is, he can do that.
Yeah.
There's something that's stopping him doing that.
It's a valid point.
Do you know what I mean? And it generally isn't. Like, there's a reason why he can't run. There's a reason why he's not doing those things. You know he can do it. You wouldn't have signed him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then it's taking the time to figure that out. And sometimes it's just a simple conversation.
Yeah.
Kyle, how you doing, man? Everything okay? Your missus okay? All of a sudden you're like, oh, fucking hell, he does care.
I ain't had a missus for about 10 years. Well, you're killing me, man. I'm rethinking my life and everything.
I've done well there, you know, good Lord. But do you know what I mean? It's just that, how are you? You all
Goes
right?
back to that conversation about like the mentality of the game, and it's the only sport where, you know, there's so many variables to it. And like, I'd play in a game, I'd score the goal, and then driving back, I'd put like moan and groan on the radio, and I'd listen to what they'd be saying about me.
Right.
Like, why do I care? You won't see a darts player throwing the darts and caring what people are saying.
Exactly.
Just in the zone.
Yeah.
Where there's so many variables within the football world. It's part of the game.
Yep.
And I love that. I always say, I love the dark arts. Some managers would say, you're meant to be in the peak condition or this and that. And I say, no, but put me on the pitch. I know how to play a game.
Yeah.
I know how to slow it down. I know how to do this. That wasn't my strength as I got older, you know, when I was younger. So you have to adapt as well as a player. And
Sure.
you got all these things in your mind going on. But I think that was what I loved about the game, that 90 minutes you could switch off. But sometimes my version of autopilot. So I always say this, when I was on autopilot, it was the best.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking about the decisions. So you see these players get put through one-on-one and they miss because they're thinking too
Yeah,
much.
exactly.
You need to think less.
You're acting on instinct.
Yeah.
It's a simple game that's made very complicated by coaches.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Remember, I don't know, when you were 10 years old, were you ever told, I want you today, Kyle, to just sit in a low block and just stop them going through you, stop them breaking you down? No. You just played.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's taken away.
Yeah.
You got
The enjoyment of the game.
play. Yeah.
But you see now, though, you do see parents on the touchlines, you know,
No, my
they're giving the kids one-on-one sessions. They're drilling it into them that they need to be the fittest and the best. And I think myself, just, you know, we'd have a ball and we'd go into the concrete roads and the streets. We'd play Kirby.
Yep.
We'd stay out till it got dark.
Exactly.
We'd just love it for what it was.
Exactly. And that's gone away from the game a little bit now, you know. It's gone away from the game. It's, you know, every kid is told pass, 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 you know, which is great. if you're going to go and play for Manchester City or in the Premier League. But not many people do. So what about when you're playing in League Two? Then you're not going to be pass then.
Well, that was always my
physical,
thing.
it's fight,
Yeah.
it's, you know?
From when I dropped down the pyramid, it was always an imitation of the Premier League, the style of play. And I was like, you've got weapons here. And again, going back to Tamworth with Tonksy, who I've had on the show, throw the ball in the box. And I've been at teams where I've been in the dressing room with Tonks, and it's like, no, get it down, pass it, we want to play. And I'm like, no, we want to score more goals than the opposition. That's a weapon. I'm a weapon. Throw the ball in the box. I'll
Utilise it.
now, Pez, this is what we do. And I'm like, and then you end up losing 6-1 and they'll come away saying, our possession was fantastic and we did this. And like, I was just having this inner battle where I was like, you know, what's going on? Is the world going crazy? Is the game going crazy?
Yeah, I think that gets it. You've got to win at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you got to do whatever it takes to win, you know? And sometimes it might be pretty, but sometimes it might be really ugly,
Yeah.
you know? But it's about winning and about getting points on the board.
And what I've learnt in this conversation, sometimes you acquire a team which isn't yours as well. So you've got to play a long game. You've got to have a long-term plan on how you can change culture, as you say.
Got to have a vision, you know, you got to have a vision. You got to get people to buy into that vision. The problem in England with the ruthlessness is you don't have much time to be able to instill a vision, to be able to instill a culture.
Yeah.
There's not many people that are able to do that, you know. I think Pep, Sir Alex, Arsene Wenger. But other than that, there's not many people that are in jobs for longer than a year, 2 years.
So are you prepared for that ruthlessness?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you have like a ring binder or a laptop or something with like...
ready to get on that roller coaster and see how long I can hang on.
Yeah. Who's the best player you've played with and against?
Oh God,
But not myself. You can't say it.
I know I can't. I can't name you. I'm trying to think now. I would say Enzo Maresca.
Well,
Um,
it's like they play a different game as well, isn't it? Quality players.
different.
They have a majestic nature to them.
Yeah, always got time. It's just easy. But yeah, he was a different level. Yeah, he was top.
Against?
Michael Carrick.
Really?
Yeah, incredible.
Really?
Brilliant. Never gave the ball away. Broke lines. Could score goals, but just dictated the game.
Where is he?
Controlled the tempo. I'm not sure what he's doing.
He's managing somewhere.
Is he really?
Yeah, I think he's doing something in the game.
I'm sure he is. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'd say. Those two. How about you?
I didn't expect to.
Put you on the spot then, Pez.
Yeah. Again, like that majestic nature, like Ramsey as a young kid, and he was in that FA Cup run.
Right.
You couldn't get anywhere near him.
Yeah.
Couldn't touch him. But then seeing like a young Grealish playing against him come through, when Mercer was on his way out, he was doing things you couldn't even get.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to smash him one session, and he's just like dug the ground and balls flipped over my head, and he's just like warped around me. And I'm like, this is like a 30-plus-year-old bloke, a young kid, can't get near him. And it's just a different nature to the game. Darren Anderton, Paul Ince, like all the names we grew up with.
Yeah.
I've got all these little fat heads of half of them. I think this different game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But then seeing players do well in the game now, like Sam Morsey is captain. Yeah, the local lad from Wolverhampton.
Right.
Good. He was a young lad at Port Vale coming through, wanting to learn the game.
Yeah.
Great mentality, great lad. So to see the things he's done
Very well.
I think he's won about 6 leagues and pushed on, and now he's in the Prem every week.
Yeah, it's top.
I had a great dressing room with players who have gone on to do really well in the game. And then, I always go back to saying that Willinghall side, there was players who I thought there should be Premiership players.
Right.
Dino in goal, he saved 2 penalties for Walsall in his debut.
Yeah, I know.
And then he gets released. Imagine now a young kid doing that.
It's just a crazy.
Manchester United will put it on a 5-year deal.
Yeah, exactly.
At 18 for Telford, I scored 25 plus goals.
Right.
6'4". Nobody wanted me. Ended up at Willinghall.
It's wild. It's wild. It's our journey, though. It's our journey.
Yeah,
It's our
change
history.
your thing, mate.
Yeah, man.
Change your thing.
Yeah.
So, any last words about your philosophy or mentality, or what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, Christ.
I mess around with these questions.
Yeah, you're going real deep.
I'll go
Real still. Gone right for the jugular.
Yeah.
I want my players to look back, and it's just simple. I enjoyed playing for him.
Yeah, that's class. That is.
You know, I think that was when I left Sacramento. There was players crying, and to me, that's the biggest reward you can get. You know, because you've impacted someone's life.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm selfless. I think that's why we've always got on, and I think that's testament to you that the way you answer that question is to think of other people. And I think you're going to do great in the game. I hope that you move back to the UK and you start doing wonders in the English game. I can see Premiership clubs who could cry out for what you bring to the table. Championship clubs for sure. I think a League One, League Two club would be stupid not to take you. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's next for you.
I appreciate that, mate.
If you need a Kitman in the Kit Keto, it's not about. What was his name?
Cafe, you're out.
Yeah, cool, mate.
For sure, mate. For sure.
That's what you keep.
I think you got a bit more value than that, mate. But no, thank you. It's been great to speak to you again and to see you. It's been such a long time, so I appreciate the time.
Love your spits, mate. Briggsy, it's been a pleasure.
Top man.
Cheers, brother. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. You happy with that?
Perfect, mate. Yeah, perfect. It's just nice to just talk, innit? You get going and you're like, God.